I could just add, which you might have already mentioned, what we have found in the past is that by having examples of student work, we make things very concrete. It takes ideas that are sort of maybe difficult to understand, and it makes it very obvious and helps everybody to understand when we see the student work around these subjects. So that's the reason why we really try to include student work.
ค่ะแล้วก็สำคัญก็คือว่าที่อยากให้มานำเสนอคือนำงานของนักเรียนมาด้วยนะคะคืออาจารย์คิดกิจกรรมที่เกี่ยวกับ multiliteracy แล้วเนี่ยแล้วนักเรียนเขาทำอะไรเขียนอะไรอ่านอะไรหรือทำกิจกรรมอะไรโครงงานอะไรเนี่ยก็เอากลับมานำเสนอด้วยจะได้แชร์กันระหว่างอาจารย์ทั้งหลายนะคะเพื่อนอาจารย์ในการที่มาอบรมทั้ง3ไซต์เพื่อจะได้นำไปเป็นประโยชน์ต่อไปค่ะ
All right, we're going to watch the first of 2 video clips. And in order to do this, please take out, you have a handout in your packet that says, what does it mean to be literate in the 21st century? And it's called a video listening guide. So please take this out. The video is about 8 minutes long, so not very long. And I'm going to ask Kumpom to stop at these different times. So we see 1:12, 2:53, 5:59. That's indicating at what point in the video. What I want you to be doing is jotting notes on your guide. When we stop, you're going to chat with your partner about the ideas as we go through, okay? So feel free to take notes. But the stopping is to give you a chance to double check with your partner in case one of you maybe feels a little bit lost or isn't sure what's happening.
ค่ะท่านอาจารย์คะเห็นบนจอนะคะเป็นชีทที่อาจารย์จะต้องใช้ทำงานวันนี้นะคะในหัวข้อขอดูหัวข้อนิดค่ะดึงหัวข้อลงมา What does it mean to be literate in the 21st century นะคะค่ะซึ่งตรงนี้เดี๋ยวอาจารย์จะได้ดูวิดีโอคลิปนี้นะคะนาน8 นาทีนะคะเราจะหยุดเป็นช่วงๆนะคะเดี๋ยวเราจะหยุดเป็นช่วงๆนะคะอาจารย์แล้วก็เราตั้งคำถามเป็นคำถามนำไว้ให้นะคะเผื่ออาจารย์จะได้ดูและตามได้ทันนะคะค่ะก็มีอยู่5 คำถามด้วยกันอาจารย์ลองดูนะคะ
It just dawns on me it might be helpful to make sure that the questions are understood so do you just want to talk this through so if you look here Ajahn Naraporn will talk through the questions to make sure you can make notes so you make sure you understand what you're looking for in the video.
ค่ะสำหรับคำถามที่1นะคะwhich literacy skills do these teachers find important นะคะแล้วก็เป็นมีอาจารย์หลายๆท่านนะคะในคลิปเนี่ยมาให้สัมภาษณ์นะคะแล้วก็อาจารย์ก็ลองดูว่า literacy skill ไหนนะคะที่อาจารย์เหล่านี้เห็นว่าสำคัญนะคะจากทักษะไหนนะคะจากหลากหลายทักษะที่อาจารย์มาที่พูดถึงเนี่ยแล้วก็คำถามที่2นะคะแล้วก็read the world คืออะไรนะคะมีความหมายอย่างไรนะคะแล้วก็มีอะไรบ้างที่ผู้เรียนของเรานักเรียนของเราเนี่ยควรจะเรียนรู้ที่จะ read นะคะซึ่ง read ตัวนี้ดิฉันไม่อยากแปลว่าอ่านนะคะน่าจะใช้คำว่าเรียนรู้เพราะว่าเราเรียนรู้ได้จากไม่ใช่จากหนังสือไม่ใช่จากการอ่านอย่างเดียวนะคะข้อ3นะคะการนำมีเดียและเทคโนโลยีมาใช้นะคะในการสอนนะคะให้อ่านออกเขียนได้literacy เนี่ยความหมายด้วยอ่านออกเขียนได้นะคะแต่ความหมายของเราตอนนี้มันกว้างกว่านั้นนี่นะคะมันสื่อความหมายว่าอะไรนะคะสื่อความว่าอะไรว่าสื่อเนี่ยและเทคโนโลยีนี่มีความสำคัญอย่างไรนะคะแล้วก็คำถามที่4นะคะแล้วก็ครูในฐานะที่พวกเราเป็นครูเนี่ยเราจะต้องทำอะไรเพิ่มมากขึ้นนะคะคือมี demand เรามี demanding มากขึ้นจากเรานะคะอะไรบ้างที่เราต้องทำเพิ่มมากขึ้นนะคะแล้วคำถามที่5นะคะเพราะฉะนั้นคำว่า literacy อย่างที่ดิฉันกล่าวในความรู้สึกของดิฉันเองก็ไม่อยากจะบอกว่าอ่านออกอย่างเดียวเขียนได้อย่างเดียวเพราะฉะนั้นนะคะเราควรจะ redefine เราควรจะให้คำจำกัดความใหม่ว่าอย่างไรนะคะค่ะเดี๋ยวอาจารย์เชิญดูคลิปเลยนะคะ
Okay, so as soon as you're ready, you can start the video and then please stop at those different times, and we'll stop for maybe 2 or 3 minutes just to chat, and then I'll say go ahead and start again. All right, enjoy the video and make some notes. That these teachers are exploring, which is located in the box. We wish to explore how practicing educators are defining the notion of literacy, and you saw some examples of that. Is it becoming reworked and expanded to include those techno-literacies that youth are becoming fluent in, those very literacies that may be necessary to qualify what it means to be a literate person in the 21st century? So chat with a partner. What do you think about that statement? Do you think that people are going to need these things to be considered literate? Why or why not? Just take a few minutes together and then we'll start the video again.
ลองคุยกับท่านอาจารย์ข้างๆนะคะว่าเราจำเป็นต้องใช้ literacy แบบนั้นหรือเปล่านะคะตามที่เขียนในบ็อกซ์นั่นคือตัวคำที่วิ่งอยู่นะคะค่ะอาจารย์อ่านในบ็อกซ์ได้เลยนะคะค่ะ
Okay, when the video starts again, you're going to be hearing the voices of a number of different teachers talking about what they think being literate means for the 21st century. So this is a chance for you now to start to make some notes on your guide about the things that these teachers are saying. And then we'll stop again at 2 minutes and 53 seconds so you can check your notes with your friend. Okay?
ช่วงต่อไปนะคะจะเป็นครูหลายๆคนให้สัมภาษณ์ว่า literate being literate ใน 21st century นี่หมายความว่าอย่างไรนะคะอาจารย์ดูแล้วก็ take notes นะคะ
Okay, go ahead, Kupang.
When I was thinking about that, I still went back to that literacy means the basic being able to work with words and numbers.
Listening, speaking, reading, writing, but I'd also throw in there critical literacy and visual literacies. Oral literacy is important as well. So
literacy to me means being able to understand and read the world, right, as opposed to text, right?
You know, being able to read information in textbooks, to be able to understand it, to be able to synthesize that information, but as well be able to understand and operate, computer programs, the different ways that we research information.
I think that students need to be more literate in terms of visual media and that isn't words, symbols and signs and graphs and all that kind of stuff.
The whole other question of social literacy. The successful students are the ones that are socially intelligent and that are emotionally intelligent. So there's that whole thing. How do you read people?
This is a chance to talk with your partner. Talk.
ค่ะอาจารย์คุยกับ discuss กับเพื่อนข้างๆนะคะตกลง literate หรือว่า literacy เนี่ยในความหมายของอาจารย์หลายๆท่านที่ให้สัมภาษณ์เนี่ยคืออะไรบ้าง
I suggest, just because otherwise we're going to lose time, go ahead and bring it to the beginning and then just play it all the way through now until the end. Don't stop it this time. Thank you. And then after we're done listening to the entire thing, I'll have you chat again with your partners, and we'll be hearing from each of the 3 sites just a couple of key ideas that you heard in this video clip, okay? But let's go ahead and play it from beginning to end now. Thank you.
เดี๋ยวเราจะเปิดตั้งแต่ต้นใหม่เลยนะคะจนจบเลยค่ะคราวนี้ค่ะอาจารย์โน้ตคีย์เวิร์ดไว้เลยนะคะ
When I was thinking about that, I still went back to that literacy means the basic, being able to work with words and numbers.
Listening, speaking, reading, writing, and I'd also throw in there critical literacy and visual literacies. Oral literacy is important as well. So
Literacy to me means being able to understand and read the world, right, as opposed to text, right?
being able to read information in textbooks, to be able to understand it, to be able to synthesize that information, but as well be able to understand and operate, computer programs, the different ways that we research information.
I think that students need to be more literate in terms of visual media and that isn't words, symbols and signs and graphs and all that kind of stuff.
The whole other question of social literacy. The successful students are the ones that are socially intelligent and that are emotionally intelligent. So there's that whole thing. How do you read people? How do you read relationships? How do you your ability to connect with people.
There's also outdoor literacy as well, that if you think of way back when the First Nations had a really keen sense, they knew when, they were literate about their surroundings. I think it's taken teachers from being the sage on the stage to the guide on the side, because there's no way teachers know a fraction of what the kids know. Most of the kids at the higher grades know way more than we do.
People were teaching other people how to farm when the older person or the more experienced person actually had the information. So now the kids, it's like a little bit more of a partnership in learning.
And students will, in order to function in the world as it is now, and certainly in the future, will need to be literate in using all types of technologies, video, computers, cameras, you name it. They're going to need to be very literate in these tools.
Because in the 21st century, all the kids are on the computer. They all have a computer pretty much. Maybe one or two kids don't. They're watching TV. They're not outside active as much as they used to be back in the day. So now, because part of their lifestyle is being on a computer, watching TV, all this, we need to incorporate this in schools.
So I think that there's a different way of thinking. Kids have just so much information all the time, and they don't really sit with the information, or they don't think critically about it or take it a step deeper.
I think as teachers we're always concerned about the welfare. Sometimes I wonder what this is doing to their emotional health. In terms of, media, there's so many different ways for them to receive all this information. Driving in a car down the road, they see ads, they see pictures, they see all these different kinds of things on the internet and magazines that they're reading, and even in the books that they're reading at their age level, there's so many different messages that I just hope that we can really be aware of the different ways that they're receiving information, and to teach them how to evaluate and use those pieces of information.
Well, teachers must be really competent, I guess, in using the computers, and that they need training.
The people that are coming into education now as educators are, in their 20s. So now we're seeing a whole new generation of kids that have grown up online. They've grown up with the technology. And so they come into, as an administrator, they come into a workplace, and they're going to want the technology to use as an educator.
To understand what they're going to be needing to do in the work world. Like PowerPoint it's used so frequently, so they need to be very comfortable with using these kinds of media.
Yes, they're helpful tools, but they also take away from important elements of our lives. I think as technology grows, it invades into our private life.
No, I think that literacy is the same, and you're teaching the same strategies and skills, no matter what you're using.
I think that it needs to maybe add a little bit to it when it comes to adding technology and ways of using websites and using computers and media.
With, the evolving of new technology, that needs to be another strand of our literacy component.
Literacy, I think, has a very narrow focus for most people. Most people think of it in terms of text, and it's beyond that, because there's technology literacy. There's also outdoor literacy as well.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I referred to earlier, like the multiple literacies, and I don't know what it would be called. I mean, that would be an interesting conversation in itself, but absolutely it's so much more broader than when I was going to school, when I thought of, paper and pencil and print.
All right, go ahead and chat with your partner about what you think are 2 or 3 really important ideas that you heard from the video, and then we will start in, let's start in Naratawat. We can have them report a couple of things first, then we'll go to Hua Hin, we'll end up in Bangkok. Okay, so just chat. What's important in this video?
ค่ะอาจารย์กรุณาพูดคุยนะคะกับอาจารย์ข้างๆนะคะว่าอาจารย์ได้แนวคิดได้หัวข้อได้คอนเซปต์ได้คีย์เวิร์ดอะไรบ้างนะคะจากคลิปอันนี้นะคะอาจารย์อาจจะดูคำถามเป็นแนวทางก็ได้นะคะแล้วเดี๋ยวเราจะขอคำตอบเริ่มจากทางอาจารย์ท่านอาจารย์ที่นราธิวาสเลยนะคะอาจารย์ดุษมาช่วยเตรียมให้ด้วยนะคะแล้วก็ต่อไปก็ทางหัวหินนะคะอาจารย์วารีช่วยเตรียมให้ด้วยนะคะแล้วก็ทางกรุงเทพค่ะสัก2 นาทีค่ะอาจารย์
Thank
All right, let's see what our colleagues in Naratawat think is important. What did you take away from the video that's important? And then we'll have our colleagues in Hua Hin add to that, and then we'll finally have our colleagues in Bangkok add. So let's start, Naratawat. What do you think?
ค่ะเชิญเลยค่ะไอเดียสำคัญอะไรคะที่อาจารย์ได้มาจากคลิปนี้ค่ะ
For the literacy in the 21st century, I think it's not only know how to write or read, but also know how to use the technology. And as a teacher, we have to really be aware of our students how to use and evaluate the technology because there are many information on the internet. So we have to teach them wisely using it.
Right. Yes, and exactly. And in addition to us teaching them, I mean, one of the things, I don't know if you noticed in that video, one of the teachers said, our students know so much more than we do sometimes. So it kind of goes both ways, I think, that yes, we are trying to teach and encourage our students to use these different literacies, but sometimes it also requires that we have to learn as well. So it's reciprocal. Thank you. Would you like to add something, Hua Hin?
Can I add more some point that the teacher from the Narathiwat mentioned? I think that in the 21st century, the teacher should know more about technology world and how to apply technology in her class. And training about computer need for all of the teacher could, because we have to be like a new generation for teaching English in the real world. So I think nothing changed much, but the technology skill is more important for a student and the teacher. So we can go together in the real world. Thank you.
Yeah, it's another form of literacy. I was just sharing with my colleagues here that when I was teaching English actively a long time ago, the only technology I had was a tape recorder. You know, that was all there was available. So that if I were to re-enter a language classroom now, I would have to do the kind of training you're talking about, and I would have to learn a lot in order to be able to be effective in that environment. All right, Bangkok, who would like to add some other ideas? We need some brave people here. Who would like to be brave?
Okay. From here.
Yes, please. Where are you?
Nowadays, the children are more intelligent than adults and teachers. They can get a lot of information immediately by using high technology. And if the teacher can't follow them, we can't teach them to be in the right way of being good human. That is my mind.
Yeah. No, and it is.
We should be aware of that.
Yeah, it's another kind of literacy. I mean, one of the teachers in the video talked about emotional literacy, being able to be to interact with people, to understand people, and this is the kind of thing that you're also referring to. That it's more than just knowing how to use things; it's also how to be a better citizen and a better person in the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Great. All right, I see our time. We've got a few more things I want to do, so I'm going to keep going.
Excuse me, may I add something?
Please do.
I am afraid that I don't agree with her to say that the students are more intelligent than the teachers. And and I think to sum up what we have just seen, then the teacher have to change their role in the classroom as the society is changed and the classroom is too. So we have to incorporate the technological literacy and how to deal with the information and critical and visual literacy, and also the last but not least is social literacy.
Thank you. Yes, no, it's good to disagree sometimes. Yes, I think it is not a matter of intelligence. It's a matter of experience and maybe comfort. Yeah, please.
Okay, for my idea, I agree with her. I think nowadays Thai children is good in technology and they learn many things that. But I think the teacher can help them more about learning the new things. And my idea, I think the teacher can help them to learn about visual aid too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the numbers of things that a teacher can do, and now you two added a number of different kinds of literacies, from social, critical literacy, visual literacy. You're just really thinking about all the things that you can do with your students in the classroom, which will require transforming your practice, to go back to that term we looked at the beginning, the idea that we're not just doing the same things as our teachers did to us many years ago, but we're trying to constantly revise and improve what our own work is. Go ahead, you want to summarize that?
ค่ะก็ท่านอาจารย์จากทั้ง3ไซต์นะคะก็พูดตรงกันนะคะที่สำคัญนะคะไอเดียสำคัญที่ได้จากตรงนี้ก็คือเทคโนโลยีนะคะเทคโนโลยี literacy แล้วก็นอกจากนั้นก็ยังมี social literacy visual literacy เป็นต้นนะคะซึ่งทั้งหลายทั้งปวงนี้นะคะคุณครูนะคะก็ต้องเรียนรู้ที่จะปรับตัวเองนะคะเพราะว่าไม่ได้มีแค่เทปบันทึกเสียงเหมือนสมัยที่เราเป็นนักเรียนนะคะมีเทคโนโลยีที่ขั้นสูงกว่านะคะเราก็ต้องปรับการเรียนรู้ของตัวเองแล้วก็ปรับกระบวนการเรียนการสอนของเราด้วยค่ะ
All right. Because of time, I want to just look at this next slide, but don't bother to bring up the entire book. I just want to point out this is a book that is available online. It is free. It's called Many Texts, Many Voices. You can buy a copy of the book, or you can just download it. So if you look at the link there, and we're not going to take the time to show you, it will actually download on your computer. And this is a very helpful resource. It has classroom ideas that bring in the idea of multi-literacies and actual examples of teachers' work from their own classrooms. So it's a wonderful resource to help you get started. If you're not sure what to do, you might find some ideas in this book. And I just wanted to, so you've got this link already in your, again, if you Google this, it'll come up and you can find it yourself. And this is just a page, it's a very small slide. Again, you've got it in your own packet. But the idea is that this book also has some concrete kind of solutions and principles that you can draw from in your own work. So it's also part of what's in the book that, again, revisits some of these things that we've already been talking about. The idea that trying to expand our own notion of what is literacy, and to begin to think about the various ways that our students are already literate and what they are going to need for the next century. One of my favorite educators is actually from my home state of Vermont, John Dewey, and he commented back long time ago. He said, we have to prepare students for the world that they will live in, not the world that we grew up in. So he's really demanding, as this whole movement of multiliteracy, that we are really thinking to the future and really looking carefully at what our students will need to be part of the culture of achievement, etc. So I'm going to let Ajahn Naraporn do a quick summary, and then we're going to watch the other video clip because I want to make sure we have time for that. Sure.
ค่ะ สำหรับอันนี้ก็เป็นไอเดียจากหนังสือนะคะ Many Texts Many Voices ซึ่งอาจารย์จะเปิดดูได้นะคะในเว็บไซต์ที่เขียนไว้ให้นะคะสรุปง่ายๆนะคะคอนเซ็ปต์ของหนังสือเล่มนี้นะคะอย่างแรกก็คือเขาบอกว่า มีวิธีการหลากหลายมากนะคะหลายวิธีมากในการที่เราจะสื่อสารกันในศตวรรษที่ 21 นี้นะคะอย่างที่บอกไม่ใช่เฉพาะการอ่านการเขียนนะคะแล้วก็ social participation นะคะการมีส่วนร่วมของสังคมนี่ก็เป็นสิ่งที่สำคัญนะคะแล้วก็อีกอย่างหนึ่งนะคะสิ่งที่สำคัญหมายความว่ามีอิทธิพลต่อการเรียนการสอนด้วยนะคะการมีส่วนร่วมของสังคมนะคะก็คือการมีส่วนร่วมของชุมชนนะคะอย่างที่ระบุไว้ในพรบการศึกษาเราก็ระบุไว้แล้วนะคะแล้วก็ประการที่3ก็คือว่าผู้เรียนนี่ก็ควรจะนำความรู้นะคะ background knowledge ความรู้ของตัวเองเนี่ยเข้ามาด้วยนะคะประสบการณ์ของตัวเองมาด้วยนะคะพร้อมกับเทคโนโลยีนะคะเข้ามาประกอบกับการเรียนรู้ของเขานะคะประการที่4ก็คือว่าการขยายตัวอย่างรวดเร็วความก้าวหน้าอย่างรวดเร็วของเทคโนโลยีนี่นะคะทำให้เกิดการสื่อสารความสัมพันธ์กันนะคะความร่วมมือกันนะคะมากขึ้นแล้วก็ประการที่5ก็คือว่าโลกเราทุกวันนี้นะคะก็เชื่อมต่อนะคะการมีความสัมพันธ์กันแล้วก็โลกเล็กลงนะคะเพราะว่าด้วยการเทคโนโลยีการสื่อสารเพราะฉะนั้นเนี่ยการที่จะเตรียมนะคะผู้เรียนนะคะให้มีอย่างโดยเฉพาะนะคะ multi literacy นะคะ critical literacy ก็มีความจำเป็นอย่างยิ่งค่ะ
All right, thank you so much. We're now going to watch another video clip, and because of time, I'm going to ask that we just go through it all the way from beginning to end. You don't have to stop. And then we'll review it a second time because it's a very short clip. It's only about 3 minutes. Once again, you have a guide for it. It's this one here called Alan Luke Being Contextually Literate. And I just want to mention that Alan Luke is one of the members of the New London group. So he's really one of the people who originated this idea of multiple literacies. And he continues to be very outspoken. This is just a short clip of him talking about what does it mean to be contextually literate, to understand what's happening in your world. And he's making the case for why we need our students to be able to do this. So again, let's watch the video all the way through. Stop for just a minute to jot some notes, and then we watch it a second time, and then you'll discuss in partners, and we'll hear some key points once again. Okay, go ahead, please.
This is เป็นคลิปที่2นะคะอาจารย์ดูแล้วก็ดูตัว worksheet ไปด้วยนะคะ Alan Luke ค่ะเขาจะเป็นผู้กล่าวนะคะ
The master of teaching, which we saw in Singapore and we could see here, is the teacher who can weave a repertoire together, who knows how to move from direct instruction to hands-on project work, who knows how to move from a constructivist project-based activity back into a worksheet activity, who knows how to work with a textbook and then go online and work with a digital resource. It's that shunting or weaving or capacity that is really the art of great teaching. So I think in some ways a critical literacy classroom will have those rich resources. It will have different kinds of learning spaces where people can move. It will certainly have kids out in the community doing service learning and engage with the community and attempting to grow gardens and collect creek water and solve problems. It will have all those things, but it will also probably look like an old classroom. Good teachers know that a repertoire during the day will vary greatly. That depending upon the kids they're teaching and depending upon the particular skill or competence or knowledge that they wish to develop in the kids, that there will be different pedagogical modes and approaches. The trick, I think, of overall professional capacity is developing a broad repertoire and then the kind of assessment literacy so that the teacher can actually see the kid, see the target competence or knowledge and skill, and then put the repertoire in place. Good teaching is like dancing. You've got to have a lot of dance steps so that depending upon who your partner is and what the music is, you can actually shift the repertoire. A lot of us as teachers fall into that default mode where, you know, the music changes to rumba, to cha-cha, and we keep doing the samba. You know, a lot of you are dancers that way, and you kind of get in the dance flow and you keep doing that. And the rhythm, your partner changes, you keep doing that, okay? A skilled professional, and we've observed this, will actually shift repertoire and actually has a range of pedagogies. But the key and the targets that we found in the Singapore and the Queensland research more or less triangulates with work that Fred Newman did at University of Wisconsin in cores. The two elements of pedagogy that we found that seemed to make a difference for our most at-risk learners were intellectual depth and connectedness to the world. That is, upping the intellectual demand, taking them to rich possible worlds, opening out the world to them, exploring ideas in depth. And on the other hand, showing them a connectedness between what you were teaching and everyday life, the value of their everyday life. Well, you know, again, this isn't exactly rocket science, but if you think about it, the fixes that policy is giving us for the most at-risk kids, the bottom two quartiles of kids, are we give these kids basic skills because they're skill deficit. Okay? What does that tell us? It tells us that they can't learn about global warming because we've got to fix the phonics problem first. Well, they get global warming off the Discovery Channel, even if they've got an alphabetic knowledge problem. Thank you very much, okay? So we've got to figure out ways of upping the intellectual demand and depth. The other thing that we do with these kids is we fill up the curriculum. Well, if there's a problem for these at-risk kids, we better put in more curriculum outcomes and more textbooks and more assignments. Well, all that does is it crowds up the curriculum so that the teachers can't do anything in depth. They can't follow and do tsunamis for a week and do them actually with any degree of disciplinary depth and rigor. What does intellectual demand look like?
So I can appreciate that you probably didn't feel like you could catch everything he says, but he's got a lot of ideas that he's fitting in a short amount of time. So let's just go ahead quickly and listen to it one more time, and then immediately afterwards turn and try to capture a couple of key points that you take away from it. And then we'll start this time we'll start back in Bangkok again, and then go to our other two sites to see what key things we can surface out of this video clip. And then you can listen to it again on your own time.
The master of teaching, which we saw in Singapore and we could see here, is the teacher who can weave a repertoire together, who knows how to move from direct instruction to hands-on project work, who knows how to move from a constructivist project-based activity back into a worksheet activity, who knows how to work with a textbook and then go online and work with a digital resource. It's that shunting or weaving or capacity that is really the art of great teaching. So I think in some ways a critical literacy classroom will have those rich resources. It'll have different kinds of learning spaces where people can move. It will certainly have kids out in the community doing service learning and engage with the community and attempting to grow gardens and collect creek water and solve problems. It will have all those things, but it will also probably look like an old classroom. Good teachers know that a repertoire during the day will vary greatly. That depending upon the kids they're teaching and depending upon the particular skill or competence or knowledge that they wish to develop in the kids, that there will be different pedagogical modes and approaches. The trick, I think, of overall professional capacity is developing a broad repertoire and then the kind of assessment literacy so that the teacher can actually see the kid, see the target competence or knowledge and skill, and then put the repertoire in place. Good teaching is like dancing. You've got to have a lot of dance steps so that depending upon who your partner is and what the music is, you can actually shift the repertoire. A lot of us as teachers fall into that default mode where, you know, the music changes to rumba, to cha-cha, and we keep doing the samba. You know, a lot of you are dancers that way, and you kind of get in the dance flow and you keep doing that. And the rhythm, your partner changes, you keep doing that, okay? A skilled professional, and we've observed this, will actually shift repertoire and actually has a range of pedagogies. But the key and the targets that we found in the Singapore and the Queensland research more or less triangulates with work that Fred Newman did at University of Wisconsin in cores. The two elements of pedagogy that we found that seemed to make a difference for our most at-risk learners were intellectual depth and connectedness to the world. That is, upping the intellectual demand, taking them to rich possible worlds, opening out the world to them, exploring ideas in depth. and on the other hand, showing them a connectedness between what you were teaching and everyday life, the value of their everyday life. Well, again, this isn't exactly rocket science, but if you think about it, the fixes that policy is giving us for the most at-risk kids, the bottom two quartiles of kids, are we give these kids basic skills because they're skill deficit. Okay? What does that tell us? It tells us that they can't learn about global warming because we've got to fix the phonics problem first. Well, they get global warming off the Discovery Channel, even if they've got an alphabetic knowledge problem. Thank you very much, okay? So we've got to figure out ways of upping their intellectual demand and depth. The other thing that we do with these kids is we fill up the curriculum. Well, if there's a problem for these at-risk kids, we better put in more curriculum outcomes and more textbooks and more assignments. Well, all that does is it crowds up the curriculum so that the teachers can't do anything in depth. They can't follow and do tsunamis for a week and do them actually with any degree of disciplinary depth and rigor. What does intellectual demand look like?
Minutes to chat with your partners about what you think is important from what Alan Luke is sharing. Then we'll have a comment from each of the 3 sites, and we'll have our assignments and be finished.
ค่ะอาจารย์คุยกับท่านอาจารย์ข้างๆนะคะแล้วก็ลองดึง key ideas ออกมานะคะอาจารย์ได้อะไรมาบ้างนะคะจากคลิปนี้อาจารย์ดูคำถามเป็นแนวก็ได้ค่ะแล้วเดี๋ยวขอคำตอบนะคะเริ่มจากทางกรุงเทพก่อนนะคะแล้วก็นราธิวาสหัวหินค่ะ
All right, because our time is rushing by, let's start with some brand new brave person in Bangkok. Someone who was not brave before. What's an idea from this video that you think is important? Anybody?
ค่ะอาจารย์เชิญค่ะได้ไอเดียอะไรบ้างคะทางกรุงเทพก่อนค่ะ
Yes, please. Thank you.
I agree that teacher nowadays we have to change how to teach our students, and it's nice to hear that teaching is like let the student try to connect to their life, connect to the world.
Right.
Yeah. And the thing that we should assign the student, okay, about the project-based learning is one thing that the teacher should do with the student, because the student can think and do something, solve the problem, and be like they can have leadership. We can learn from that.
Yeah, great.
Okay,
thank you. Yes. Nice connection to another topic that we've done in a previous session about project-based learning, where Alan Luke talks about the value of being able to take something from beginning to end and to do a whole series based upon that, which we can only do if the curriculum isn't all crowded, like he said. Okay, maybe Hua Hin next. Just one comment, please, and then we'll go to Narathiwat before we wind up.
In our opinions, I would like to add more that the most 2 important elements of critical pedagogy is intellectual depth and connection to the life. I think they should know how to read the world, to understand the people. That's all for our conclusion. Yeah. Thank you.
No, thank you. Yeah. No, those 2 points are things that can take us quite a long way, I think, in our thinking about teaching, if we're saying, are we achieving the intellectual depth that we could achieve in this situation? And are we making a connection to the real life of our students? Absolutely. Finally, just a comment from Narathiwat, please.
Hello? And actually,
Hello.
we have the problem with the audio from the clip. I cannot hear clearly. But the thing that I heard is something about the teacher have to teach the student to be intelligent, and they can connect their knowledge with their life and to the world.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, the connection with life. Just to make a note that you have the link in your handout So if you were not able to hear well, please do take time to go ahead online and listen to it directly, because it's he has a lot of ideas packed into just a few minutes. Maybe I'll let you do a quick summary.
ค่ะทั้งอาจารย์ทั้ง3ท่านนะคะจากทั้ง3ไซต์ก็เห็นตรงกันนะคะว่าเราควรจะสอนให้นักเรียนของเราเนี่ยสามารถที่จะ connect to the world ได้นะคะคือนำทักษะนำสิ่งที่เรียนรู้เนี่ยมาผสมผสานนะคะเชื่อมต่อกับการเรียนรู้โลกและชีวิตนะคะแล้วก็อีกอย่างก็คือว่าต้องใช้ความรู้นะคะให้เป็นประโยชน์นะคะแล้วก็มีความสัมพันธ์กันกับสิ่งรอบตัวด้วยค่ะ
All right, so I'm just going to end with 2 assignments. Don't worry, they are not difficult. I would like for next time for you to find out information about your students. And so in particular, what social issues. So if with a critical literacy class, we want to involve real social issues. So what is of concern to your students? So that means hopefully you will take some time in class to ask them. And also to find out what you see as being their abilities and what's interesting to them and what are they able to do. Maybe you're going to learn something new about your students. And we will be talking about that in 2 weeks when we come back together. Secondly, for session number 4, so this is later on, remember, this is when Ajahn Shea is here. We will be reminding you as we go along. But for that session, we're going to ask you to bring student work that reflects multi-literacies. So you find something that either an assignment that you do that you feel gets the students to demonstrate their abilities. And then you'll be bringing that, and Ajahn Shea will be working with that in session number 4. So could I ask you to summarize those 2 things? Thank you. What their capacities might be in terms of different forms of literacy that perhaps you don't know about. So it might be technological, something technological, or something that they're using. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you ค่ะสำหรับการบ้านแรกนะคะก็ให้อาจารย์มาที่อยากให้อาจารย์หาข้อมูลจากนักเรียนของอาจารย์นะคะว่าเขาสนใจ social issue เรื่องอะไรนะคะแล้วก็นักเรียนเนี่ยสามารถที่จะทำอะไรได้บ้างเกี่ยวกับหัวข้อนั้นๆนะคะโดยอาจจะใช้ multi-literacy นะคะใช้ทักษะต่างๆนะคะทักษะจากซอสต่างๆจากวิธีการต่างๆนะคะในการที่จะหาข้อมูลหาความรู้เกี่ยวกับ social issue นั้นๆนะคะแล้วก็อีกการบ้านหนึ่งนะคะอันนี้สำหรับเซสชันที่4การบ้านแรกเนี่ยสำหรับเซสชันที่2นะคะคืออีก2อาทิตย์นะคะสำหรับให้นำกลับมาให้อาจารย์มาร์ตี้มาคุยกับอาจารย์มาร์ตี้นะคะว่านักเรียนของท่านสนใจ social issue เรื่องอะไรนะคะแล้วเขาหาข้อมูลอะไรได้อย่างไรนะคะโดยวิธีการไหนนะคะเกี่ยวกับ social issue นั้นนะคะค่ะแล้วก็อีกการบ้านหนึ่งก็สำหรับเซสชันที่4นะคะอันนั้นใช้เวลามีเวลาค่ะคือว่าอาจารย์ลองกลับไปดูว่ากิจกรรมของอาจารย์นะคะในหนังสือที่แบบเรียนนะคะหรือกิจกรรมที่อาจารย์ทำอยู่แล้วใน lesson plan ของอาจารย์เนี่ยมีอะไรบ้างที่สะท้อนให้เห็นถึง multi-literacy คือไม่ได้เฉพาะการอ่านการเขียนธรรมดานะคะหรือถ้าไม่มีวันนี้อาจารย์ได้รับรู้แล้วนะคะว่า multi-literacy คืออะไรทำได้อย่างไรอาจารย์ลองไปเติมในกิจกรรมเดิมของอาจารย์นะคะเติมว่าควรจะสอดแทรกอะไรที่ให้เป็น multi-literacy activity นะคะแล้วเสร็จแล้วก็ให้นักเรียนทำอะไรเสร็จแล้วนำผลงานของนักเรียนชิ้นนั้นนะคะกลับมานะคะมาส่งนะคะในมานำเสนอในเซสชันที่4นะคะเซสชันที่4ซึ่งจะส่งตามอีเมลข้างล่างนะคะอีเมลของอาจารย์เชค่ะ shea.sanchez@gmail.com นะคะอาจารย์จดไว้ด้วยนะคะค่ะอันนี้สำหรับการบ้านที่2นะคะที่เป็นผลงานของนักเรียนนะคะอาจารย์อาจจะสแกนลงหรือว่าค่ะแล้วก็ส่งมาทางอีเมลเป็น attach file นะคะขอความกรุณานะคะยิ่งส่งมามากยิ่งดีนะคะค่ะ
All right. Thank you so much. That brings us to the end of today. Big, full day. Lots of ideas. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Kakunka, sawadee ka. See you then.
ค่ะท่านอาจารย์อาจจะกลับไปทำความเข้าใจอีกทีนะคะ multiliteracy นะคะวันนี้เราก็พยายามให้คำอธิบายให้มากที่สุดถ้าอาจารย์ยังสงสัยนะคะอาจารย์อาจจะเปิด Google หานะคะมีบทความหลายๆบทความที่เกี่ยวกับเรื่องนี้นะคะมีตัวอย่างแล้วเดี๋ยวคราวหน้าเราจะนำแฮนด์เอาเพิ่มเติมมานะคะซึ่งมีความชัดเจนด้วยนะคะแล้วก็หวังว่าอาจารย์คงจะทำการบ้านมาส่งนะคะค่ะเพราะหวังว่าได้รับความร่วมมือจากอาจารย์อันนี้ก็ collaboration นะคะก็เป็นส่วนหนึ่งของ multiliteracy นะคะเราก็เรียนรู้ไปด้วยในขณะที่เราจะนำไปสอนนักเรียนนะคะขอบคุณค่ะแล้วก็พบกันคราวหน้าค่ะสวัสดีค่ะ